What's going on?
Super strong.
I should be a lot more dead right now, right?
In the DC League of Super Pets, Superman's dog and his superpowered animal friends have to save the world after an animal from Lex Luthor's lab takes out the entire Justice League. Now that's a fun premise that allows DC Comics to explore lighter adventures featuring superhero pets. Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, and Kate McKinnon star, and it's obvious that they're having a blast here, but it's the supporting characters who deliver the best laughs in this pretty good family adventure.
Have you ever wanted to be noticed so badly? You didn't even care what it was for?
Not Okay is a nice little Hulu satire of internet culture where an Insta-famous blogger gets caught up in a lie that destroys her entire life. It's a satire, but it also deals with issues of serious trauma that makes it a tonal mismatch, but Not Okay is still pretty okay.
What's this podcast about?
A new American reality where people invent these conspiracies because the truth is too hard.
Finally, Vengeance is the story of a New York podcaster who comes to Texas and gets caught up in the conspiracy theories surrounding the death of a former lover. This is another media satire, but the characters are just caricatures, and the fish out of water comedy is pretty mild. We were hoping for better from B.J. Novak's directorial debut.
My Prius exploded.
Oh my God. What if you were driving a real car with gas and stuff?
And that's what's new this week at the movies. I'm Sean McBride, the movie guy.
It must be Friday.
Why is that?
Well, I just, I don't know, because the coffee was warmer this morning.
Okay, I'll go.
No, I'm just kidding, because our pal Sean McBride is here. It happens every Friday, as it has for how many years now, Sean? You've been doing that?
I think we're coming up on a quarter century now. It's
I would think
Wow.
I moved here in '97, so yeah. I think I started doing movie
so.
stuff in '98.
Okay, so 25 years, longer
were
than
you?
you've been alive.
No, that's...
Okay, as long as you've been alive. But not only that, all right, so Sean worked here and then left and moved to Boise, Idaho.
To Victoria and Salt Lake into Boise and came back.
And in the
Bounced
meantime, though,
around.
do you think we stopped doing Sean McBride, the movie guy?
No, probably
No,
not.
we did Sean by remote.
Skype is a wonderful thing.
There you
all
go.
those years, even before Skype.
It's a
we were
Friday
doing it.
staple. You
It is.
gotta have
It's just part of the morning show and has been, and we love the fact that Sean's still here with us
Yeah.
doing it. To that end, we've kind of also seen the evolution. It
I
was
bet.
all new releases into theaters, and now we kind of recognize the fact that, hey, streaming is a very viable option.
many
and
options
many,
now.
many more people
I
are
was
looking.
looking a little forward, and next week I think it's 7 home titles,
Wow.
and really nothing to talk about in theaters next week. So it's next week in particular we're going to talk about that. But this week we do have at least we have 2 films in theaters. So
Okay, so I was out last week on Friday. So Nope was last Friday.
Nope, and I gave it a kind of a qualified yep. I didn't quite love it as much as I'd hoped for, but I did enjoy it quite a bit.
Okay, so this week it's a big name star.
Several big name stars.
Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Kate McKinnon. We're talking about the league, the DC League of Super Pets. You got to say DC in there. Interesting, it's kind of the last big hurrah of summer, and I'm not sure if it's really a hurrah. But if you have kids and you're just trying to get through the last 2 weeks till school comes back in, then this is a movie for you, particularly if you have elementary school kids.
There you
And
go.
the idea is, what if Superman had Superman's best friend is a super dog? And so it's Dwayne Johnson playing his mutt Crypto. He's the puppy that climbed into Superman's carrier when he came to Earth, And look, they're best friends, but so we have also Lex Luthor, and he's playing with some kryptonite of his own, and he accidentally gives all the animals superpowers. Ends up Crypto, the dog, loses his superpowers. It ends up being a comic book movie, but featuring the animals, because all the Justice League is waylaid, and so it's all these animals now with superhero powers. It is what it is. It's a comic book adventure for the kids featuring cute animals here. I think it's obvious Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart and these actors are having a blast making this movie. I don't think the animation is anything special.
Well, you know what's interesting to me? You name all these big names, but yet the target audience is 7 and 8-year-olds. Do they even appreciate who's doing it?
No, they have no clue.
I truly believe that the target audience is all these movie stars' own kids.
Well,
and that's probably why they're doing
something
it.
that they can actually
Because they can't see a lot
watch.
of their
Yeah.
movies, so you make something you can take your nephews and nieces.
And also maybe because obviously parents are going to have to go watch this with the kids too. They have a little bit of a connection. And I recognize that.
I'm sorry that
I
voice is not going to
know.
be enough
I
to
know.
convince me to stay
I
awake.
think that this is one of those films that has enough slapstick that the elementary school kids will like it, and have enough heart that those parents will be okay with it. But if you got a teenager, they're going to hate
Forget
this
about
film.
it. Yeah, forget about it. So is this the only release this week?
No, we also have one more, but it's only playing at the Tinseltown. That's called Vengeance. And this is B.J. Novak's film. Most people remember B.J. Novak from The Office. Of
course.
You may not realize that he was also in the writer's room of The Office, the TV show. And so this is his directorial debut. He wrote it, he directed it, he stars in it. It's a story of this New York City journalist. He wants to get into podcasting. He's had a hookup with a young woman who has passed away, and her brother calls and says, you know, it wasn't an opium overdose. She was murdered. So this guy comes to West Texas, and he doesn't really remember that much about her, but he gets caught up in these conspiracy theories. And look, it is a fish out of water. It's a New York guy in West Texas.
Right.
And so that stuff is obvious and quite frankly kind of, amusing, but not really breaking any new ground. I would say that the characters are more caricatures than flesh and blood thing.
Okay.
I don't think this is a great movie. It's not bad. It's Issa Rae, that's B.J. Novak, it's Ashton Kutcher. There's some real actors in this thing, but it's just not a great film. I don't think it's incisive or...
I was excited for this when I watched the trailer, and I thought they have a couple good, funny poking fun at Southern versus
look,
the New Yorker.
Texans like guns and Texans like
Right.
football. That's not exactly breaking new ground.
That's
So,
right.
Yeah.
Played many times before, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that being said, is this one that I'm better suited to wait till it's going to be out in some service before
Yeah,
long?
I don't
Why
think...
pay the price
I'll
of
be honest with
admission?
you, none
Right.
of these films really
Okay.
you need to go to the theater
Okay.
for them. So.
I got you.
So.
Do we have any streaming out
We
this
do
week?
have one, and I think it's perhaps the most interesting one, and it's on Hulu. It's called Not Okay. It's a story, it's kind of similar to Vengeance. It's a story of this young woman. She wants to be a writer. She's an editor for a BuzzFeed type
Right.
thing. And she tells everyone she's going to a Parisian writer's retreat. Really, she's just going to hole up in her apartment. She photoshops herself into some pictures of Paris. But while she's supposedly there is a bombing attack. And so suddenly everyone's saying, oh, you poor dear, how did you survive this? Well, she wasn't there. But she leans into it, and she becomes kind of internet famous for the lie. And of course, then it becomes a question of maintaining the lie.
Yeah.
She bonds with a young woman who is a genuine victim of trauma of a school shooting, and kind of picks up some of her actual feelings on the subject. It's interesting that it's about the lie of this stuff, and it's interesting that they absolutely do not let this hero off the hook.
Okay.
Here. Starts off by saying you're going to see a film featuring flashing lights, scenes of trauma, and an unlikable female protagonist. And I thought, okay, it's going to have a happy ending. No, it leans
doesn't
into
have
it.
That's kind
Okay.
of interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so Dan's pick of the week, which happens every once in a while, and mine is not a new release, but it's relatively new, is The Last Movie Stars. If you have not seen it on HBO Max,
yeah.
Okay.
it's Ethan Hawke's latest effort, and it's all about two of the last really big movie stars and the fact that life is not always what it appears to be.
Yeah.
Paul Newman, Joanne Woodward, so if you've seen their movies, some of the best movies ever, when you talk
We have to stop. Have you heard of Paul Newman?
No, and you may not, but I mean, as a kid growing up, I really didn't necessarily know the stars of Citizen Kane, but I still knew it was one of the best movies as far as film historians talked about. So
Well, it's
worth the
interesting because
time.
I think a lot of people know, Paul Newman, but they forget that he was not the big star at the beginning.
Right.
That it was her, and their lives kind of did A Star Is Born,
And I think that's what makes it interesting. Besides the technology that's used, Ethan Hawke is done during the time of a pandemic. So suddenly Zoom becomes the only way things are done. And also other actors read the roles of other stars. So anyway, HBO Max, it's worth the investment. I think it's 6 episodes.
6 episode arc.
1 hour
Okay.
each. Yeah. You got one?
I do.
Anything you watch this week?
Oh, no, I don't. I watched it. I told Sean, he was talking last week, The Gray Man that we talked about last week.
Yeah.
He said it was all right. Yeah, I mean,
Did you watch it?
I did watch it.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Who's not going to watch
I mean,
Captain America?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling, I
Exactly. Hard not to like, but I did get what you were saying. Some parts a little unrealistic, and yeah.
That's funny. My wife seemed to like it too.
Oh, it was good.
It's 20
It was
away.
good.
Wonder why.
So we're done with summer. What's left? Anything at all next week?
You know, yes, there are films coming up, and we have some interesting low-budget things like Fall in 2 weeks. We've got Beast, we've got Prey. But like I said, next week we have like 7 online films. So that's how we're going to talk about
Tons
next
of streaming.
week. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Sean McBride, the movie guy, drops by every Friday, talk about what's new, either
25
at the
years.
box office or on your television. All right, thanks, Sean.